My parents asked me to watch the twins and the house while they traveled. I had no idea they were actually running away. It started with a phone call I never expected. I was halfway through debugging a stubborn piece of code when my phone buzzed. Mom's name lit up the screen. I answered, half distracted, expecting the usual chat about how I should eat healthier or visit more often. Instead, her voice had that tight, forced cheerfulness that immediately made me sit up. "Hey, honey, your dad and I have a favor to ask. We're going to Europe for 2 weeks. Can you move back home and watch the twins?" Europe? My parents hadn't taken a real vacation since our family trip to Disney World when I was 12. Now, out of the blue, they were planning a 2-week getaway? I hesitated. Move back home? Like, actually live there? Yes, sweetie. Just for 2 weeks. We really need you. I rubbed the back of my neck. Moving in with two 17-year-olds for 14 days wasn't exactly my idea of fun. But how could I say no? Yeah, okay. 2 weeks, I said. I can handle that. I had no idea that agreeing to those 14 days would turn into a year-long trial of my sanity. The next day, I packed a duffel bag, loaded my laptop, and drove several hours to my parents' house. I've been living in another city for the past few years, visiting only once or twice a year. It felt weird walking back into my old home. The familiar creak of the staircase, the faint lemon-scented cleaner smell. It was like stepping into a time capsule. Only this time, the capsule came with two surly teenagers. The twins barely acknowledged me. Travis was sprawled on the couch, thumbs dancing over his phone, while Megan stood by the kitchen counter scrolling through TikTok with a venti Starbucks cup next to her. I gave a half-hearted wave. "Hey, guys, remember me? Your brother, Michael?" Travis grunted and muttered. "Why should I listen to you? You're not my parent or anything." Megan smirked, not even bothering to hide her amusement. Great, I thought. Day one, and I've already lost control. Later that night, my parents ran me through the basics. Fridge stocked, neighbors available in case of emergency, twins curfew at 10 p.m. Not that they ever followed it. Dad gave me a strained smile. "Good luck, son. They're a handful. We've been dreaming of this break for months." Mom hugged me tightly before they left. "We wouldn't ask if we didn't really need this." "Thank you, honey." I stood on the porch, watching their taillights disappear down the street, wondering why this trip felt less like a vacation and more like a retreat. The house felt familiar, but noticeably emptier. Fewer pictures on the walls, Mom's favorite knickknacks missing from the shelves. I chalked it up to her decluttering spree she mentioned a while back. But the emptiness wasn't the biggest issue. The biggest issue was Travis stomping into the kitchen that evening, grabbing a soda and muttering, "Don't expect me to follow your stupid rules. You're not the boss of me." "I'm not trying to be your boss," I said, forcing a smile. "Just, let's try to survive these 2 weeks, okay?" He rolled his eyes and walked away. Megan, sitting at the counter, stirred her cereal and said, "Yeah, good luck with that." I sighed and opened the fridge, realizing someone had eaten half the leftover pizza I was counting on for dinner. Apparently, survival was already a group challenge. By midnight, Travis still hadn't come home. I paced the living room, wondering if this was the part where I called the cops or just gave up and accepted that I'd lost the teenager battle on day one. Finally, the front door creaked open. Travis strolled in, smelling like cheap cologne and rebellion. "Curfew's at 10, I said. "Yeah? And next time maybe call. I don't need a missing persons report on my first day here." He shrugged and disappeared into his room. I collapsed onto the couch, staring at the ceiling. 2 weeks of this? I was in trouble. I grabbed my phone to text a friend, but ended up Googling how to survive 2 weeks with teenagers instead. The results weren't encouraging. As I lay there, listening to Megan laugh at some TikTok upstairs and Travis's music thumping through the wall, I realized something. These 2 weeks weren't going to be tough. They were going to be absolute chaos. and I was stuck in the middle of it. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of something crashing downstairs. My heart skipped a beat. I grabbed my phone, ready to call 911 if necessary, and crept toward the stairs. As I peeked over the railing, the mystery unraveled. Travis stood by the kitchen table, shoving a shattered cereal bowl into the trash can, muttering something about cheap dishes. "Morning," I said, trying to sound casual. "Whatever," he replied, already heading back to his room. I rubbed my temples. It was too early for this. As I made my way to the kitchen for coffee, I noticed a mess. The living room looked like a tornado had danced through it. Couch cushions were on the floor. The coffee table was sticky with what I assumed was soda, and a half-empty pizza box balanced on the armrest like a sad monument to last night's chaos. The hallway had scuffed marks along the walls, and a faint smell of paint lingered in the air. I opened the pantry to grab some cleaning supplies and spotted something odd. Fresh caulk around the doorframe. The pantry had never needed repairs before. I shook my head and got to work. 2 hours later, after scrubbing, vacuuming, and wrestling with a particularly stubborn gum spot on the carpet, I decided to confront the twins. I knocked on Travis's door first. No answer. I knocked harder. "Travis, come help clean up." "Busy," he called back. "Busy with what?" "Stuff." "Travis, I just spent 2 hours cleaning up your stuff. You live here. You help." Silence. I tried Megan next. Her door was slightly ajar, so I gave it a gentle push. She was sprawled across her bed, scrolling through her phone. "Megan, can you give me a hand downstairs?" "Ugh, I'm in the middle of something." "Of what?" "A TikTok challenge." "Priorities, Michael." I chuckled despite myself. "TikTok will survive without you for 20 minutes. Let's go." She sighed dramatically, but got up. Progress. As we tackled the living room, I made small talk. "So, what's with the pantry repairs?" "Dunno," she said, shrugging. "Mom and Dad said something about a break-in, or whatever." "A break-in? When?" "Couple months ago, I guess." Travis said they were overreacting. That was news to me. My parents hadn't mentioned anything about a break-in. After Megan wandered off, I decided to take a break. I went to Dad's office to grab the vacuum. The room was unusually bare. His usually cluttered desk held only a lamp and a notepad. I picked up the notepad and read the top line. "Arrange documents by the end of the week." My dad didn't write reminders like this unless it was something important. I stared at the words, my mind racing. What documents? And why the urgency? The unease settled deep in my chest. My parents were meticulous planners, not the type to leave cryptic notes. I flipped through the pages, but the rest were blank. I placed the notepad back and looked around the room. The filing cabinet was partially open. I pulled the top drawer, expecting bills or insurance papers, but it was empty. The other drawers were the same, cleaned out. I sat in Dad's chair, trying to piece it together. A break-in, empty files, urgent documents, and my parents running off to Europe with barely any notice. Then I remembered Mom's offhand comment a few months back. "We just can't figure out what's going on. Things keep disappearing." At the time, I thought she meant the usual stuff, keys, sunglasses, maybe a misplaced gift card. But now, my parents weren't forgetful. If valuables were vanishing, something bigger was happening. I looked out the window toward the garage. Travis's car was gone. Again, he hadn't mentioned going anywhere. As I turned back to the desk, Megan's laughter floated up from downstairs. I stood there for a long time, trying to shake off the growing sense of dread. Someone in this house wasn't telling me the truth. I just couldn't figure out who. 3 weeks had passed since I moved back into my parents' house, and I was already questioning my sanity. The house still looked like a chaotic mix of a frat party aftermath and a reality TV episode gone wrong. Every day felt like an endless cycle of picking up empty soda cans, mystery socks, and the occasional half-eaten Pop-Tart from bizarre places. like the bathroom sink. The twins? They were about as helpful as a broken GPS. Megan lived glued to her phone, flipping through TikToks with the dedication of an Olympic athlete. Travis was either locked in his room or mysteriously running errands that never seemed to yield any groceries or useful results. Then came the phone call. Mom's voice crackled through the speaker, disturbingly chipper. "Hey, sweetheart, we have some exciting news. You're coming home early?" I asked, daring to hope. "Oh, no," she laughed. "We extended our trip another few weeks. Isn't that wonderful? Wonderful? For them, maybe. For me? I was practically a single dad to two teenagers who treated me like a talking Roomba. We just needed more time to unwind," Mom added, her voice trailing off. I bit back a sarcastic comment and hung up, staring at the phone like it might deliver better news if I waited long enough. The next morning, frustration got the better of me. I called Mom back. "Hey, when exactly are you guys planning to come home?" I asked, trying to keep my tone even. "Oh, sweetie, we decided to visit China," she chirped. "We've always wanted to go, and well, why not now?" "China?" I repeated, gripping the phone. "You've been gone 3 weeks." "We know, honey, but it's just such a great opportunity," she said, brushing off my concern like a speck of lint. "We'll be back before you know it." I ended the call and stared at the wall. They were off on a dream vacation, while I played full-time referee to two teenagers who considered deodorant optional and chores a personal attack. Later that night, I tried to rally the troops. "Okay, guys," I said, standing in the kitchen. "We need to talk. This house looks like a tornado hit a yard sale. I need some help." Travis snorted. "Sounds like a you problem." "Actually, it's an us problem," I said, forcing a smile. "You live here, too." "Temporary," he shot back, scrolling through his phone. "You're just a stand-in." Megan chimed in, without looking up. "Yeah, you're like the substitute teacher nobody listens to." I exhaled slowly. "Fine. If you won't help clean, you're at least doing your own laundry." "What's laundry?" Travis asked deadpan. I laughed, mostly to keep from losing it. "You know, that magical thing where clothes go in dirty and come out clean? Except here, you actually have to do it yourself." That night, I sat at the kitchen table with a calculator and a growing sense of dread. The bills were piling up: groceries, internet, random repairs. I stared at a $300 charge for a plumber visit after someone, probably Travis, thought flushing half a box of pizza down the toilet was a good idea. My friends tried to help. "Dude," Jake said over beers one night, "you gotta lay down the law. Those kids are running you like a corporate retreat." "I'm trying," I said, "but it's like wrestling raccoons. If raccoons had Wi-Fi and an attitude problem." Jake shook his head. "They're testing you. Show 'em who's boss." "Yeah, sure. I'll just add Teen Whisper to my LinkedIn profile," I muttered. The next day, I attempted a heart-to-heart with Travis. "Listen, man," I said, "I get it. I'm not dad. I don't want to be. But we got to work together." He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Why, you're leaving when they get back anyway." "Yeah," I admitted. "But for now, we're stuck together. So maybe stop flushing pizza." "Whatever," he mumbled, walking away. By week 5, I noticed more oddities. The garage door was slightly ajar one morning, though I swore I'd locked it the night before. The Wi-Fi router had been unplugged and moved, and the family safe in Dad's office had scratches around the lock. I needed answers. I started digging through the house for clues, like some budget version of Sherlock Holmes with a caffeine addiction. In the basement, I found a pile of old receipts tucked behind the washing machine. Electronics, jewelry, all purchased at local pawn shops. I felt like I was part of a game where I didn't know the rules, I thought, staring at the crumpled slips. But I was already in too deep to back out. I pocketed the receipts and headed upstairs, heart pounding. Someone in this house was selling things, and I was going to find out who. Almost 2 months had passed, and I was beginning to accept the chaos as my new normal. The house still bore the scars of teenage neglect: empty Gatorade bottles, crumpled Chipotle wrappers, and a mysterious sock collection multiplying like rabbits. My attempts to enforce basic cleanliness felt like trying to train squirrels to sort laundry. I was knee-deep in a pile of mismatched socks when my phone buzzed. Mom's name flashed on the screen. "Hey, Mom," I answered, wiping my forehead with the back of my hand. "Hi, sweetheart." Her voice was light, almost too light. "How are things?" "Same old," I said. "Any updates on your return? It's been almost 2 months." "Well," she trailed off, then giggled nervously. "Funny thing, we decided to extend our trip again." I stood up straight. "Extend? Again?" "Yes," she said, sounding like she was announcing a surprise trip to Disneyland. "We just need more time to, recharge." "Recharge?" My voice rose despite my effort to stay calm. "It's been almost 2 months." "Oh, honey," she cooed. "You're doing such a great job with the twins. We trust you completely. Just keep an eye on things a little longer." I ended the call without saying goodbye. My pulse drummed in my ears. Something was off, way off. My parents weren't impulsive people, and this wasn't just a spontaneous vacation. It was an escape. I went to Dad's office. The filing cabinet was locked, but the key was always taped beneath the desk drawer. I peeled the tape off, inserted the key, and pulled open the drawer. Inside, neatly stacked, were bank statements and mortgage documents. One file caught my eye, a loan statement from a Florida bank. The loan was for a beach house. In my name. I dropped into the chair, my mind racing. My credit was supposed to be spotless. I'd been saving for my own place. And here was a mortgage for a property I'd never seen. I dialed Mom's number again. She answered on the third ring, voice still artificially cheerful. "Mom," I said. "What the hell is going on?" "I just found a mortgage for a house in Florida. In my name." She sighed. "Sweetie, calm down. It's complicated." "Complicated? You took out a loan in my name? And you're using my money?" "We didn't have a choice," she said, voice cracking. "We gave everything to raise you kids. We never traveled, never splurged. We just needed a break. So you stole from me?" "We didn't steal," she snapped. "We'll pay you back. We just needed a head start." "A head start on what?" "Abandoning your kids." "Michael," she said, voice turning cold, "just take care of your brother and sister. We'll handle the rest." I hung up, hand trembling. My parents hadn't just left. They'd bailed out of their lives. And they'd left me holding the bag. I stormed outside to get some air. As I paced the driveway, Mrs. Pierce, the neighbor across the street, waved me over. "Everything okay, Michael?" she asked, her brow furrowed. "Not really," I said. "My parents are still traveling." She pursed her lips. "Funny, a few months back, I saw them loading up a moving truck. Took a bunch of furniture. Thought they were just redecorating. The ground shifted beneath me. They were moving out," I whispered. "Looked that way to me," she said. "Happened when the kids were at school. Seemed odd." My stomach turned. My parents hadn't just gone on vacation. They'd orchestrated their escape, leaving me to clean up the mess. I leaned against the car, my breath shallow. I was trapped, and my parents were probably already sipping margaritas on some Florida beach. Sitting at the kitchen table with a lukewarm cup of Starbucks coffee, I stared at the mess surrounding me. Empty Doritos bags, crumpled soda cans, and a tower of dishes that defied gravity. The twins were nowhere to be found, of course. I rubbed my temples and dialed Travis's number. He picked up on the third ring. "Where are you?" "Chill, dude," he said, voice muffled. "I'm out." "Out where?" "Stuff." I gripped the phone tighter. "Get home. Now." An hour later, he strolled through the door, Megan trailing behind him with her signature TikTok scroll in full swing. I motioned for them to sit at the table. "We need to talk," I said. "Now," Travis rolled his eyes. "Mom said you're just here, 'cause you're always the one who feels responsible for everything." The words hit me like a slap. I took a slow breath. "Yeah, well, I'm here, and you are too. So sit down." They sat. Megan let out an exaggerated sigh, as if she'd been asked to run a marathon instead of listen to her brother. "Here's the deal," I began. "Mom and Dad didn't just go on vacation. They moved out. They took furniture, took out a loan in my name, and left me to deal with everything." Megan blinked. Travis's mouth opened slightly. "Wait, they left us?" "Yeah," I said. "I know it's hard to hear, but that's what happened." Megan's eyes filled with tears. "But why?" "Because," I said, trying to soften the blow, "they probably felt overwhelmed. You guys haven't exactly been easy, but that doesn't make what they did right." "Well, we're not the ones selling stuff and running away," Travis muttered. The words hung in the air, and then something clicked in my head. The missing items. The receipts from the pawn shop. "Speaking of selling stuff," I said slowly, "remember how Mom and Dad mentioned things disappearing?" My eyes shifted to Megan. She froze. Travis's gaze followed mine. "Wait," he said, "you've been stealing stuff?" "I didn't mean to." Megan burst out, tears streaming down her face. "It was Jake, my boyfriend. He said he needed money, and if I really cared about him, I'd help." Travis groaned. "You're telling me you pawned our parents' stuff for some broke loser?" "He said he loved me," she sobbed. "But then he dumped me for some rich girl." Travis laughed, harsh and disbelieving. "Wow. So you trashed our family life for a guy who ghosted you for someone with a better car? Genius move, Meg." Megan covered her face with her hands, shoulders shaking. I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "Okay, enough," I said. "Yeah, she messed up. But right now, we're all in the same sinking boat. We need to work together if we want to stay afloat." "Great metaphor," Travis muttered. "Love being on the Titanic." "Focus," I said, exasperated. "From now on, we stick together. We keep this house in order, pay these bills, and figure out what to do next." "Deal." Travis shrugged. "Fine." Megan sniffled. "Yeah, okay." Later that night, after everyone calmed down, I went to the garage to grab some cleaning supplies. My eyes landed on a stack of boxes in the corner. Brown tape, shipping labels, nothing unusual, until I noticed the logos, Florida Furniture Stores. My stomach dropped. The more I uncovered, I whispered. The clearer it became that I'd been played by the people I trusted most. How much more had they hidden from me? The next morning, I woke up with a pit in my stomach. The discovery of those Florida furniture boxes in the garage gnawed at me all night. My parents hadn't just abandoned us. They'd orchestrated an entire escape plan, and I was their financial scapegoat. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of Starbucks coffee, scrolling through my banking app. I already knew about the Florida mortgage, but I needed to check if there were more surprises waiting for me. I took a sip of the lukewarm brew and grimaced. Nothing says adulting like reheated Starbucks, a half-charged phone, and financial ruin. By mid-morning, I was on the phone with the bank that issued the mortgage. After navigating an endless maze of automated menus and hold music that sounded like it was recorded in someone's basement, I finally got through to a human. "Yes, Mr. Thompson," the representative said. "The mortgage for the Florida property is active." "Yeah, I know about that one," I said, forcing myself to stay calm. "I'm calling to check if there are any other loans or accounts I should be aware of." There was a pause as she typed. "Yes, sir. There are 2 additional accounts." My grip tightened around the phone. "What accounts?" "One for a luxury furniture store and another for a travel agency," she said. "Both maxed out?" My pulse skyrocketed. "Is there any way to dispute these?" "You'll need to file a fraud report," she said. and possibly contact an attorney. Press 1 if you'd like to lose your mind, I muttered as I hung up. After ending the call, I stared at the phone for a long moment. Then I Googled identity theft attorney near me. The lawyer's office was a beige-walled maze of legal books, a cluttered desk, and a coffee mug from a law school I'd never heard of. There was a stack of unpaid parking tickets on the corner of the desk and a half-eaten donut next to a pile of files. The attorney, Mr. Keller, looked like he'd stepped out of a 90s sitcom, mustache and all. Identity theft by family members isn't unheard of, he said, tapping his pen against a notepad. Did they have access to your social security number? Yeah, I admitted. They helped me file taxes last year. He sighed. That explains it. They used your SSN to secure the mortgage. Technically, that's identity theft. The phrase identity theft felt like a punch to the gut. My own parents had done this. What can I do? I asked. We can file a police report and dispute the loan. But he hesitated. This could get messy. Family cases often do. I left the office clutching a folder of paperwork and a headache the size of Texas. When I got home, Travis was sitting on the couch, gaming headset on, yelling at someone about loot drops. Pause the game, I said, dropping the folder onto the coffee table. He glanced at the papers. What's that? Evidence, I said. Our parents totally mess with me. They used my social security number to buy a house in Florida. Travis blinked. Wait, like actual scam? Like crime show level scam? Exactly like that, I said, collapsing onto the couch. I have to file a police report. Megan walked in from the kitchen, a Pop-Tart in hand. Wait, what? Mom and Dad mess with my identity, I said, waving at the papers. They bought a beach house. In Florida. In my name. She sat down, mouth open. Why would they do that? Because, I said, voice cracking, they wanted a new life. And they didn't care if it ruined mine. The room went silent, except for the faint buzz of Travis's pause game. I stood and paced. My mind raced with questions. How much more was hidden? Were there other loans? Credit cards? I opened my laptop and logged into my credit report. The screen loaded and my stomach dropped. It felt like watching a horror movie unfold in real time. 2 more accounts, both maxed out. It felt like discovering your credit card was maxed out on useless infomercial gadgets you don't even remember ordering. 1 for a luxury furniture store. 1 for a travel agency. They didn't just leave us, I said, voice hollow. They went all in. Megan wiped her eyes. What do we do now? I stared at the screen. We fight back. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that my parents were already 10 steps ahead. For months had passed since I'd moved into my parents' house, and life was finally settling into something resembling normal. Well, if you consider wrangling 2 rebellious teenagers, dodging creditor calls, and piecing together financial documents a normal life. The morning started with my usual routine, reheating yesterday's Starbucks, scrolling through emails I didn't want to answer, and checking my fantasy football scores. As I sipped the lukewarm coffee, my phone buzzed with a calendar reminder, meeting with Attorney Keller, 10 a.m. I arrived at the office right on time. Keller greeted me with his usual half-smile, a coffee-stained tie, and a desk that looked like a legal tornado had swept through it. Good to see you, Michael, he said, gesturing for me to sit. Got some updates for you. Lay it on me, I said, bracing myself. We've got enough evidence to file for identity theft and fraud, he said, flipping open a folder. The mortgage, witness statements from your neighbor, Mrs. Pierce. It's solid. Hearing it laid out like that made my stomach twist. So, what's the next step? We file, he said simply. Then we wait. The bank's already been notified. By the time I left the office, the weight on my chest had shifted. It wasn't gone, but it felt lighter, like maybe, just maybe, we were taking our lives back. At home, I found Megan attempting to load the dishwasher. She was holding a plate like it might bite her. The soap goes in the compartment, not just dumped on the dishes, I said, suppressing a laugh. Oh, right. She squirted half a bottle into the compartment and slammed it shut. Travis walked in with a lawnmower manual in hand. How do people mow lawns every weekend? This feels like cruel and unusual punishment. Welcome to adulthood, I said. Next stop. Complaining about property taxes. What's a manual anyway? Can't we just YouTube it, he asked, tossing the booklet on the table. We settled into a weird but functional rhythm. Travis picked up a part-time job at a local hardware store and proudly showed me his first paycheck, like it was a winning lottery ticket. Megan kept the house from descending into total chaos. Sure, we had soap-sud explosions, and I found a rogue sock in the oven once, but we were a team. One afternoon, while sorting through bills, I noticed a crisp white envelope with no return address. My stomach sank the way it always did when I saw unfamiliar mail from a bank, like finding a mysterious lump under your car hood. Inside was a notice from the bank. Account frozen. Due to ongoing investigation into fraudulent activity, the mortgage account for the Florida property has been temporarily frozen. I let out a long breath. Looks like the bank finally caught up with Mom and Dad, I muttered. As if on cue, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Michael? It was Mom. I almost didn't recognize her voice, sharp, panicked. Nothing like the carefree tone from her "we're extending our vacation" calls. Mom, what did you do? She hissed. The mortgage is frozen. We have payments due. I leaned back in my chair, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. What did I do? You took out a mortgage in my name, maxed out accounts, and abandoned your kids. Now you're mad because I reported it. We needed that house, she snapped. We raised you. We sacrificed everything. And you cashed out on me the first chance you got, I said. I'm not your personal ATM. You're our son, she said, voice cracking. No, I said coldly. Not anymore. I hung up. My hands trembled, but the weight on my chest lifted a little more. That night, we sat around the dinner table with frozen pizza and root beer. Mom called, I said. Travis raised an eyebrow. Let me guess. She's mad. Oh yeah, I said. Apparently I'm a traitor. Megan snorted. Classic. We laughed, not because it was funny, but because we finally could. We laughed the way you do when you realize you're still standing after a storm. So, I said, raising my can of root beer, here's to us. We survived the chaos, learned how not to load a dishwasher, and sent a strong message to family fraudsters everywhere. Travis clinked his can against mine. To us. Megan smiled through watery eyes. Yeah, to us. We weren't perfect. We were barely functional some days. But we were no longer pawns in someone else's game. Perfect families only exist on sitcoms anyway. We were free. We weren't victims of our parents' game anymore, I thought, watching the bubbles in my soda fizz and pop. We'd taken our lives back, and there was no way we were giving it up again. Taking back control of my life wasn't as simple as hanging up on my mom, though that was a solid first step. There were legal documents, paperwork avalanches, and more phone calls with customer service reps than I ever thought humanly possible. I swear, if I heard one more "thank you for your patience" in that robotic voice, I was going to lose it. I downed the rest of my Dunkin' coffee and braced myself. First on the list, revoking the financial power of attorney my parents had used to hijack my life. I sat in Attorney Keller's office again, this time with a clearer head and a stronger sense of purpose. So, we just file this and that's it? I asked, watching him stamp an official-looking document. That's it, Keller said, adjusting his glasses. Your parents will no longer have any legal control over your finances. Hearing that felt like someone lifted a 500-pound weight off my chest. I left the office with a sense of relief I hadn't felt in months. At home, Travis was sprawled on the couch, watching a documentary about competitive hot dog eating. Megan was in the kitchen attempting to make pancakes. Smoke detectors were already screaming. Seriously? I said, rushing to shut off the alarm. It said just add water, Megan protested, waving a spatula like a magic wand. Lies. Did you use Bisquick? Yeah, but I might have guessed on the water measurement. Maybe follow the directions next time, I said, fanning the smoke with a pizza box. Despite the domestic chaos, things were changing. The twins were stepping up. Travis got a second part-time job delivering pizzas. Megan joined a volunteer group at school and started talking about college applications. College, I asked one evening as we sat around the table devouring a Costco-sized lasagna. Since when are you thinking about that? Since I realized TikTok fame isn't a career path, she said, twirling her fork. Unless you're 14 with a ring light and unlimited charisma. Plus, I kind of want to do something useful. Proud of you, kiddo, I said, feeling that rare warmth of genuine sibling pride. The next weekend, we sat down together to tackle their college paperwork. It was like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. Wait, Travis said, squinting at the FAFSA form. What's a dependent again? You, I said. You're a dependent. That feels like an insult, he mumbled. Hours later, with sore backs and an empty bag of Doritos as evidence of our hard work, the applications were finally submitted. We celebrated by watching a cheesy action movie from the 90s, complete with terrible CGI explosions and cringeworthy one-liners. Meanwhile, I focused on rebuilding my financial life. I checked my credit report weekly, called the bank so often the rep recognized my voice, and installed enough account alerts to make my phone buzz like a game show buzzer. The real moment of victory came when I received an official letter from the bank. Power of attorney revoked. Account fully secured. I held the letter up like a trophy. We did it, I said, waving it around. Cool, Travis said, glancing up from his game. So, does this mean you're rich now? No, I said. It means I stopped being your parents' financial puppet. That works too, he said, going back to his controller. Megan smiled. So, pizza to celebrate? Always, I said. We piled into the car and headed to our favorite local pizza joint, a hole-in-the-wall place where the owner, Sal, always remembered our order. While waiting for our pepperoni and extra cheese masterpiece, I realized something. We'd become a family, a weird, chaotic, pizza-loving family, but a real one nonetheless. The fear, the uncertainty, the endless anxiety my parents had left behind, we'd faced it, together, as we sat in the booth, laughing about Travis's disastrous attempt to mow the lawn last weekend. He'd tried to use a YouTube tutorial and ended up creating a crop circle. I felt that rare sense of peace. To us, I said, raising my soda. To us, they echoed. I had reclaimed my life, and they were finding their own paths along the way. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were living. Almost a year had passed since the day I moved into my parents' house and stepped into a life I never signed up for. It felt like living in a reality show called Surprise. You're a parent now, minus the prize money or cheering audience. The chaos, the legal drama, the emotional roller coaster. It was all finally winding down. Honestly, it was like a rejected episode of Shark Tank. Bad ideas, worse execution. The court hearing was as anticlimactic as a fireworks show in the rain. My parents didn't even bother to show up, just sent a lawyer who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. The judge reviewed the evidence, fraud, identity theft, unauthorized mortgage, and ruled in my favor. My parents were officially guilty of financial fraud. The court orders the defendants to repay the full amount, the judge announced. Additionally, all financial liabilities associated with the plaintiff's identity shall be removed. It was a win, but as I left the courthouse with the paperwork in hand, I didn't feel victorious. Sure, my credit was restored and the mortgage was erased, but no legal decision could restore the trust that had been shattered. So, did we win? Travis asked when I got home. Yeah, I said, dropping the folder on the kitchen table. We won. Awesome, he said. So, can we get a hot tub now? Travis, Megan groaned, swatting his arm. We just survived family fraud. Chill. I laughed, despite myself. Sorry, dude. No hot tub. But we can get extra toppings on the pizza tonight. Good enough, Travis said, already scrolling for deals on the Pizza Palace app. As the weeks passed, life settled into a new rhythm. The twins were about to turn 18. Megan filled out college applications with more confidence than I ever had at her age, casually mentioning UCLA and Penn State, like she was picking cereal brands. Travis talked about taking a gap year to figure things out, which mostly involved working part-time and perfecting his grilled cheese technique. On their birthday, we had a backyard barbecue with cheap burgers, too many balloons, and a cake Megan made from a TikTok recipe. The frosting was uneven, the lettering crooked, but it was perfect in its imperfection. So, what now? Megan asked as we sat by the fire pit later that night. Now, I said, you two officially become adults, and I retire from my unpaid parenting gig. You loved it, Travis said with a smirk. Sure, I said, tossing a marshmallow at him, because nothing says fun like arguing over Wi-Fi passwords and explaining that you can't DoorDash ice cream every night. We laughed, and for the first time in a long while, it felt light. Easy. A few weeks later, I packed up my things and moved into my new home, a modest house in a quiet neighborhood. The kind where neighbors wave from their porches, kids ride bikes until dusk, and every other living room has a Yankees game on. I bought most of my furniture from IKEA after spending a soul-crushing Saturday trying to pronounce Hemnes and locate missing screws. The day I moved out, I stood in the driveway while Travis and Megan hovered by the door. So, Megan said, "This is it?" "Yeah," I said, adjusting a box labeled random crap. "This is it." "Don't worry," Travis said. "We'll survive without you." "Oh, I know," I said. "But if you break the washing machine, I'm charging you for tech support." We hugged, awkwardly of course because siblings, and then I drove away. Later that evening, as I sat in my new living room with a cold beer and a takeout burger, I thought about everything we'd been through. My parents' betrayal, the chaos, the moments I wondered if we'd ever find our footing, and the twins, those stubborn, hilarious, resilient kids, had grown up through it all. The TV buzzed with an episode of The Office in the background as my phone lit up with a text from Megan. "Travis put dish soap in the dishwasher. Kitchen looks like a foam party. Send help." I chuckled and replied, "Good luck with that. You're adults now." We'd all learned some hard lessons. I reclaimed my identity, my independence, and my sanity. The twins had found their strength. I took a long sip of my beer, propped my feet on the coffee table, and smiled. I'll never let myself be a pawn in someone else's game again, I thought. And I know the twins will never be defenseless again, because if you survive a family fraud saga with your humor intact, you've already won.